This is not how I imagined my first day.
It's been a while since my last opinion video, guys, and I just wanted to do another one of those because you guys did say that you've been enjoying them and you do want more of them out. However, I've been lacking on providing those. So today we're going to be talking about an opinion piece, which is why is Resident Evil 2's remake such a hyped gaming project in all of the video gaming industry. Now, if anyone's been around social media or gaming groups, Resident Evil 2 is a very well-known upcoming project and is pretty much a household name by this point among video gamers. But a lot of people are confused and maybe even completely unaware about why Resident Evil 2's hype is actually so high and why it's so important to the video game development industry overall. And there's a few main points that I want to get over here, and remember, this is an opinion piece, so it is relative to different people, but I think these points specifically definitely go across to a broad audience and cover most people's basis for why they actually are looking forward to Resident Evil 2 as much as they are. Please do keep in mind, none of these points are in any particular order, but they are all important regardless, so without any further delay, let's get right into this. So the first point I'm going to talk about is people's disappointments with the latest titles. Now, I'm not saying the latest titles weren't received well, it's just people did have some problems with some of the latest additions. So Resident Evil 5, for example, did kind of take us away from the horror focus a hell of a lot. However, most people still enjoyed the game due to the cooperative nature as well as the lore enhancements that it brought to the story. Now, although Resident Evil 6 has been received well under reviews, I'm sure many people remember all the controversy as well that existed over that game, some people dubbing it the Michael Bay of zombie games. And Resident Evil 7, although a step back into the right direction by going back to that very atmospheric horror gameplay, it did go to first person, and although I personally liked that, it was one of the bigger controversial points behind Resident Evil 7. Now, Remake 2 basically goes back to the formula that people know and love, which is a third-person game that has horror atmospherics. It's almost like Resident Evil 4 and 7 had a baby together, and the blending result is Resident Evil 2's remake. Because of some fans' disappointments with certain features in 5 and 6, even if they did enjoy the games themselves, they are definitely looking forward to Resident Evil 2's remake because, like I said, it's blending all of the good elements from various different games. Whether you're new to the Resident Evil universe or an old fan, you should be well acquainted with the T-Virus regardless. Now, the T-Virus is a very old virus in the Resident Evil lore. It comes from the progenitor virus, and all of this was established many years before the actual event at the Arklay Mountains in the original Resident Evil. Now, the T-Virus has a wide variety of applications, being not only able to infect humans, but also plants, wildlife such as elephants, insects, arachnids, and all sorts of other creatures. Now, the biggest thing about the T-Virus is it almost completely wipes the memories of its host. Only very primal memories and also motor functions remain, basically making them a walking corpse. Now, the T-Virus is the most beautiful virus in Resident Evil due to this, in my opinion, and a large reason why Resident Evil 2's remake is so hyped. If you think about it, after Resident Evil 4, we've basically dealt with dumb viruses and switched to smart viruses, and even parasites such as the La Plaga. Now, this means that the hosts of these infections, just to generalize it all, basically have a sense of intelligence. They can even communicate with a pack mentality and create strategies or even wield weapons or explosive munitions or even get onto turrets and even drive vehicles. Now, when you're looking at Resident Evil 5, for example, and you're being chased by some goons on some dirt bikes while you're in a Humvee with a GAU-12, you don't really get that same sense of dread and terror that you get when you're dealing with a dumb virus. If you really think about it with the La Plaga, the enemies being smart actually makes them less threatening and scary. These infected can be flashbanged, they can be disorientated, they can also retreat and do other strategic things, and in most cases they are trying to use weapons on you, and therein lies the problem. You're not actually being assaulted by some supernatural or sci-fi enemy anymore, you're just kind of getting attacked by a human soldier who's basically being mind controlled. The sense of dread from an actual T-virus zombie is much more impactful because they always shuffle towards you. They don't get into cover or care for their personal safety, there's no negotiating with them, there's no taking down any EV hive mind and making everybody safe. How even do you deal with the T-virus? You've basically got to nuke the entire area, and that's kind of what happens, so that's why the virus is so dreadful. There is no cure, there's no reversal, there's no taking the parasite out of people, there's no killing the hive mind, there's no negotiating, there's no nothing. If your friends or your allies have been turned into walking corpses, you've got to take them down as Leon does with his fellow officers in the RPD. But yeah, this is why the T-virus is making such a prominent amount of hype into people's heart. They just want to go around in a city full of George Romero style zombies and just slay them all. Now of course there is some smart zombies in Resident Evil 2 such as Mr. X, we also have William Birkin and Lickers, and I do call them zombies but they are kind of BOWs to be honest rather than zombies. However, the city is still going to be full of the good old dumb walking corpses, and that is still going to be a very enthralling experience. Now, Raccoon City is another memorable mention. It's a very well-known environment in not just Resident Evil, but in a lot of video gamers' hearts as well, even if they didn't play Resident Evil. Now, just to give a point across as to how prominent Raccoon City actually is, it's not only in Resident Evil 2, but it made its way into also Resident Evil 3, as well as multiple spin-offs, and also we got a movie that featured the entire city in a AAA blockbuster live action style. Now many people may not like the movies, but it does show just how beautiful Raccoon City is and how important it was to a lot of video gamers, because that was still a striking advertisement tactic and it worked very, very well. Now Raccoon City is basically the most prominent horror environment in my opinion, other than Silent Hill, and that gives another good idea of just how well known Raccoon City is. The entirety of the city is a character in itself. You have a lot of memorable environments in there, and over the course of multiple different games, a lot of different hectic events actually happened during the incident of the outbreak. It's not only every horror fan's dream to go into a zombie survival apocalypse, but most people would love to do it and prefer it to be in a city environment. Raccoon City just ticks off all of the correct criteria for making a very excellent and atmospheric and impactful gaming experience. Going back to many of the memorable locations such as the police department is going to be one of the most beautiful experiences for video gamers who did get to play the original over 20 years ago. Now the next point is going to be more for old school fans, and I'm sure they'll understand what I'm talking about, but I'm not sure if newer fans will particularly understand this one. But it's about the mystery and intrigue of Raccoon City as well as Umbrella during the events of Resident Evil 1, 2 and 3. So in the earlier Resident Evils, we didn't particularly know who Umbrella were properly, how powerful they were, or that they were a global super entity. We were also very new to different virus strains, and even just the original virus, which was the T-virus. So the Resident Evil universe had a very, very large amount of cultural intrigue. If you really have another game that in my opinion best gets it across, it is BioShock. Now that game also intrigued people very much into its universe, and it was because of the fact they just made a whole new idea up that hadn't been explored before, and that's what Resident Evil did with the original. Now BioShock 2 didn't actually manage to keep the hype up with its second game, and many people can see that if you just Google it and look at some of the reviews or its reception overall. Whereas Resident Evil 2 did actually manage to keep the intrigue. We upgraded the mansion to a city, and we also got a new strain of virus included in the game with multiple villains and a much larger and impactful plot. Due to the location change as well, unlike Bioshock 2, the intrigue just escalated even further. Now Resident Evil 2's remake has been confirmed already to have additional changes to the environments over the original, as well as the fact there's going to be expanded areas that are new to this iteration of the game. Now of course, that intrigue from the original is now carrying over to Resident Evil 2's remake, and a lot of the old school fans have kind of got that Bioshock fever, and they want to explore that very impactful environment to their hearts once again and find out what differences there are and what new things they can find and explore. These are some of the points that I think are definitely making Resident Evil 2 to be such an impactful and hyped project. I think both old school and new fans can appreciate these points regardless of their time or introduction to the series. One of the last points I wanted to make, and it's not as big of a point but it still is something prominent, but the golden age of horror games is over. We have mostly now just indie projects that aren't very well known, and a very few AAA projects are produced every few years. Now Resident Evil 2's remake is looking to be the best horror project for a very long time. The closest things we have in actual AAA production as of recently are The Evil Within 2, we also have Outlast 2, some online games that are questionable as to whether they're horror like Friday the 13th, and mostly after that it's just indie developed games. Of course Resident Evil 2 is gonna blow most of these out of the water, so for people who have been very much itching for a good horror game, this is going to please everybody in the genre. Now if there's anything I have missed out that you feel is particularly important, please do leave a comment below of course, and I would love to see what you guys think about Resident Evil 2 and what is hyping you up the most. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, a share or a subscribe, or all of the above. It would really greatly help me grow and get the channel out there. And if you do enjoy the content, you can find more videos in the description below. You can find my Twitter there where you can follow me, or you can come join the Discord community. It's all below, so just go check it out. Like if you just scroll down a bit, there's like 10,000 goodies in the description and comment section. It's basically a shopping center. But for now guys, I just hope you're having a beautiful day. As always, take it easy and peace.